Stu Robinson, welcome to Forces Sport. I can definitely say you're our first gold medal winning athlete we've had on. That's right, isn't it? Certainly Paralympic, but an absolute privilege. We've been trying to get you on camera for a while, and I know you've been busy. I think perhaps that's where we should start. You know, what's life been like since winning that gold in Tokyo?
It's been a pretty crazy time. Obviously, a lot of celebrating, a lot of getting used to the fact. I think we had the premonition that we were going to go to Tokyo and to win a medal, but obviously to come away with a gold was an amazing achievement, and to come back and to celebrate with obviously the friends and family who couldn't be there, but we were there when we returned to celebrate with us. So it's been a pretty amazing time. Yeah.
How did the Robinson household celebrate your performance out in Tokyo?
I think it was a pretty early start to watch the game, so I'm not sure if the kids were awake or not, but they probably watched it through one eye and then celebrated, and then I still don't think they've come to terms with it either, but hopefully they'll get used to it in the future. Because
they sent you away with some artwork, didn't they? They sent you away with some posters to wish you all the best. Was that the key to your victory, do you think?
I think so, yeah. It's probably a lot better than my artwork, but it was on my wall in my apartment in Tokyo, and it was there to wake up to every day and see them wishing me good luck and stuff like that, so hopefully it paid off. Yeah.
And just talk us through, almost talk back from the final. At what point did you have the belief? Because USA, you know, have been there and done it, and have been a major competitor and a rival for many times. But sort of, at what point did you think, you know, this is totally doable? Was there a game where you thought we're there, we're top form at the moment?
So like I said before, we had the idea that we wanted to go out there and medal, and we knew we were in a good place. But with the pandemic and us not being able to compete, it was tough to gauge how we were going to perform against other nations. Our first game was up against the Canadians, which was a tough game because they knocked us out of the medal contention in Rio. So straight away we knew it was going to be a tough game, and we had to perform and had to beat them, and we did that. We were pretty confident against the New Zealand team. We beat them, and again we were confident that we were going to compete and play pretty well against the US in the pool game, and we were, I think, 5 or 6 goals up. Just unfortunate that a few errors kind of let that one slip, and it still put us in a good position to play the host nation Japan in the semi-finals. And again we knew that we were capable of beating them, and again we applied the game plan, we put it to work, and we beat them. And to then play the US again in the final, we went in the morning after the game plan meeting, and we looked back at the video footage of where it went wrong and how we could improve and stuff like that, and we knew that if we got them right and cut out the little errors that we made ourselves, that we'd have been with a good chance of winning, and fortunately it paid off.
Look, military life certainly teaches you how to use your initiative, and you were very resourceful in the build-up to the games because you utilised garage doors to help you. Talk us through your training programme, because training during lockdown could not have been easy.
Yeah, I mean, playing a team sport is pretty tough, because it's all well and good being able to go into the garage and train as much as possible and get fitter and get faster, etc. But you can't quite apply that. But in the flip side, trying to work on your own fitness and your own, so we say, ball skills and stuff like that, it was trying to find different ingenious kind of ways to improve that. And it's all well and good throwing the ball outside to your son up and down the street and having a bigger target to aim for, but then when you've got to try and use a tennis ball and hit those tiny little targets on the garage door, it's hopefully paid off for us in Tokyo.
So were you out actually just throwing the ball at the garage door, your garage door at home?
Yeah, probably a bit to the neighbours' disgust, because they probably heard the banging and stuff, but it was a needs must. I think at the end of the day we had to try and find ways of spicing things up and trying to get different ways of training and trying to find ways that we could improve, and obviously that was one of the ways that I kind of enjoyed doing it, but maybe not the rest of the street.
Yeah, so they've shared in your success then.
Yeah, we've put it down to them as well. So
yeah, good for them.
And talking about, I mean, lockdown was one difficulty, but what sort of pervaded across, you know, been an issue for GB wheelchair rugby over the last few years has been a lack of funding, and possibly the lockdown delaying things slightly and you know, kind of changing things around actually ended in a good way in terms of funding. So you lost your UK sport funding quite a few years ago, and yet you still, even then, you were still at least top 4 in the world, and you've managed to maintain that, and obviously they've come back on the scene. Just, I mean, it's hard to say in a nutshell, but just try and put into a nutshell what that's, the stress that's been as well for the team and for the, you know, the kind of I suppose, the management of GB Wheelchair Rugby in making sure that you could survive?
Yeah, I think obviously it was a massive blow to lose the funding at the very start. Obviously, you know, you've both been there from the start, and we had to come up with different ways of finding a way to get the competition schedule on track for the build up to Tokyo. And obviously a lot of the management team went away, and they were resourceful, should we say, the way that they came around things, and spoke to a lot of different people, and we had to look at different ways of raising the funds required for us to just have a schedule, let alone for the athletes to be able to perform, and for the athletes to go away and to gain employment, to be able to just literally live, let alone to be able to train and to be at competition was hard enough. And obviously coming from a military background, it was kind of a little bit still kind of difficult, but I kind of managed to get on with it, find different ways of being able to achieve it. And I think that the way that we moved forward as a squad was testament to ourselves. And I think that, like you said, the way that we managed to stay fourth in the world and carry on competing at the highest level meant that we were going to go into Tokyo in such a good place. And I think UK Sport saw that and kind of were fortunate enough to fund us for the next 4 years for Paris, and to hopefully continue our rise up the world rankings and towards playing the top teams in the world.
Does that funding just help you as an elite team, or will it reach further down to maybe a grassroots level and bolster the sport as in general?
I think a bit of both. I think we have a development and a youth programme which are not only funded by a little bit of UK Sport but also Sport England. So all this funding coming in is going to help not only give the younger generation the opportunity to play sport, but also try and nurture that and push that in the right direction for when we're trying to create the GB elite team for Paris and LA and Brisbane and beyond. So fingers crossed that'll happen.
And you hope to be involved?
Yeah, I think as long as my body holds out and I've got the my playing performances in the coach's eye, and I'm playing well enough to be selected, then I'll always put myself forward for a selection. So yeah. And
you were just explaining that actually it's the toll that wheelchair rugby takes on your body which almost times you out of the game. So you're in a position where you've really only been playing elite level 4 or 5 years, whereas there are younger people that you play with whose bodies are already kind of falling apart, so to speak. So it's really about the game in the time in the elite game that wears you down.
Yeah, I think again, coming from a military background, you're already pretty fit anyway, so I think that's helped me massively. So having that natural fitness, but then you then have to apply it into the world of wheelchair rugby, which is obviously pretty brutal on your body. But because I've only been playing such a short time, my body's still in relatively good shape for the next couple of years. So I know that a lot of the guys that have struggled because they've been playing a long time and their bodies have been put through a lot, that they are struggling, and only rightly so. I think that they kind of put their bodies first and try and look at their future for what it holds for them, because they obviously have to continue the rest of life in their chairs and how they push forward. So yeah.
Well, talk us through some of the injuries that wheelchair athletes are prone to in your sport, and how can you combat that?
A lot of the guys obviously struggle with their shoulder injuries, their upper body. It's all upper body sport really, and I know that for me it's predominantly fingers, hands, that kind of get fractured or broken or strained or such like that. And it is a very brutal sport, but a lot of the time, a lot of the collisions, a lot of the contact are they're very minor. They don't look it, but they're minor injury-wise. You don't come off pretty bad. It's kind of if you put yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time or don't protect yourself when you're going to hit the floor, that's when the more nastier injuries are going to occur. But I think for playing the sport-wise, I think as long as you can not only carry out your strength and conditioning, but your prehab and your rehab, that's going to stand you in good stead for moving forward with the sports.
Well, it's not called murder ball for nothing, is it?
Exactly.
Well, you touched on the brutality, how it looks, and that's part of its popularity, it being called murder ball. And certainly when we've seen you, when you're playing during the Invictus Games and the training sessions I've seen you involved with, it looks tough, and I think that's part of its appeal. But do you think, and going back to what Jules was asking, do you think that at a grassroots level, obviously the gold medal will do a lot to have more recognition around the sport and bring more people into the game?
Yeah, we've already seen a massive uptake in people wanting to take part in just local club training sessions. It's been, the numbers have massively increased, and that can only be a good thing, because obviously there's only a certain amount of time whilst the current squad of players and the development lot can continue pushing the sport forward, and we have to look to the grassroots level and the youth of the generation coming up to take the sport forward even more. And I think winning the gold medals massively helped, and whether or not we can continue moving forward can hopefully be a good thing, and hopefully they'll have a good opportunity to perform at the highest level with Great Britain and beyond. So yeah.
Has being part of this setup not replaced, but helped the fact that you're no longer part of the RAF regiment mess room, that camaraderie, has that followed you through?
Yeah, that was one of my kind of fears, I think, when I was leaving the military to join the big outside world. And I know a lot of other people have different issues and different worries about leaving the military, but for me, I just was more concerned about, am I going to be able to continue that camaraderie and that banter and stuff like that. And I'm quite fortunate that I've obviously gone into a rugby environment, which is pretty similar. And as well, we're in a team sport, so it's the banter's back and forth, and there's a lot of no holds barred most of the time in the changing rooms and out on court and stuff like that, but it kind of makes it all worthwhile in the end.
Yeah, in this day and age, a lot of people question mark dark humour, but I'm guessing there's an element of dark humour in that changing room.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's massively dark within the military, but you then take that into the disability sport side of things, and things are completely off the scale. Things probably I wouldn't have even thought about saying within the military, but if they're happy with saying it, then obviously I'm happy to go with it. So yeah.
And how important was that camaraderie in the dressing room? Because this is a team that, granted, probably haven't seen a lot of each other in the last 2 years, but generally the core has been the same. And I talk about the management as well. That was, even from the top down, how important was that? I mean, it's self-explanatory, you got a gold, but how important was that to get you over the line in Tokyo?
I think it was massive. I think we managed to keep the core of the banter and the camaraderie and the squad togetherness and the nucleus, that kind of all the way through the lockdown, which probably a little bit, as much as it pains me to say, it helped by the amount of Zoom and Teams calls and stuff like that. But I think it was all pretty much one of the plans was, obviously, as much as we couldn't train together, the next best opportunity is to be online and to carry out video analysis sessions or look at different ways that we can do our strength and conditioning sessions. And we kind of had to hold on to the hope that the games were going to get the go-ahead and that we were going to get the opportunity to go out there and play, and we just wanted to continue our upwards trajectory towards winning that gold medal that we had in our heads before we even qualified for Tokyo, and we just knew that we were going to get there. But obviously applying everything that we'd been through from a lockdown and from in the garage and training and throwing balls against the wall, and to now competing and putting that together all as one in a team environment and on the court kind of helped us towards Tokyo. So, yeah.
The delay due to the pandemic with the Olympic and then Paralympic Games, do you think that gave you an advantage? Was that a year that you didn't waste? It was a year you capitalised?
Yeah, I know a lot of the squad were pretty negative about it because they were more concerned that the games weren't even going to happen. But for me, straight away, I was flipped that on its head and turned it into a positive, because I said, look, this could be another great opportunity for us to get fitter and to get faster and stronger within these next 12 months. But as well as that, we can carry out the unrivaled amount of Zoom calls with video analysis and looking at literally every single part of the opposition that you can think of. So it massively helped us. Obviously, the difference between us not being able to be on court and playing against opposition was something that every nation wanting to compete had to take on board and had to literally see how that was going to pan out when we got to the games. But we did our prep work, we did everything that we could away from being on court, and then when we were together we trained as much as we could and trying to put it into practice when we got to the game. So
a lot of people talk about sort of this haze, especially the gold medal haze, or at least any medal haze really, post winning. Again, your military mindset kind of kicked in a kind of week later, didn't it? Whereas a lot of people are still in that haze. You explain how, although, because I said to you, you're still pinching yourself, can you, have you come down from cloud 9 yet? And you're like, yeah, that happened pretty quickly.
Yeah. I think, it's pretty tough because as much as the last 4 or 5 years have been exhausting and towards this one focal point of us winning a medal in Tokyo, that to come back, and it would be so good to have a bit of a break and let the body recover and stuff like that. But I'd had a couple of days, and by that time, and there's only so much celebrating you can do to celebrate winning the medal. But for me, I was more than anxious to get back into the garage or get back into the gym and get training again, and literally just put myself through that. And I don't know if that was more of being in that set routine of training for the last 4 or 5 years, or was it me and my military mindset of not being able to sit still and trying to be active again. So, but it's working for us, so we'll see how it goes.
I would say a healthy combination of both, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
When you were going through your rehab in Headley Court, you were quite determined, quite adamant early on that this was going to be the sport for you. Did you ever envisage that you would be a Paralympic champion, especially in the short space of time that that's happened?
Yeah, I think ever since I've been in hospital, that the goals have always changed and got a little bit higher. Initially, my goal was to just go and play sport and to find something that I enjoyed with my newfound disability. I was quite fortunate that I literally fell into my favourite sport straight away. But yeah, after trying to compete and playing sport, obviously the goal was then set to play at the Invictus Games. I think after one day of competing there, we wanted to win the medal, so that kind of goal shifted straight away. And then from there, when I kind of found that I could then perhaps play at the Paralympic level, the goal when I went to Rio to see the guys compete there was to, look, I need to be on court with these guys next, and I need to be competing at a Games. Once we'd qualified for the Games, the goal shifted yet again, and that was it, and we had to win a medal. And even on the day of the gold medal match, I remember sitting on the bus with a teammate, and he was chatting to me saying he can't believe that we're going to come away from here with at least a silver medal. And that quote quite wasn't settling well with me, because the goal had changed yet again. Even though we were reaching the gold medal match, we had to win that day. I wasn't happy with coming away with a silver, because you never know what's going to be around the corner, and you never know that this could be the last opportunity that GB win a medal, and well, for any European nation to win a medal. And I thought, let's go out there, let's apply what we've learned this morning, let's go and win the gold medal and make everybody proud back home, and thankfully we did. And
how have the goals changed now then? You must have new ones.
Yeah, they're always being constantly reassessed, probably not in the same process of 24 hours, but I think we have a pretty busy schedule for the next couple of years. Obviously we're trying to fit a 4-year schedule into 3 years, and fortunate or unfortunate, despite which way you look at it, that we have 2 competitions next year. So we have the Euros in February, and then we have the World Championships in October, which will be there and thereabouts, where we'll have had the Paralympic Games, the European Championships and the World Championships within the space of about 12 months. And it's just a great opportunity, and probably quite a unique one because of the compressed timescale that we've got to go out there and play all 3 within 12 months and potentially come away with 3 gold medals. So.
And has anyone ever held all 3 at the same time that you?
They've not, no. So we're quite happy that we've won the gold medal at the Paralympics and been the first ever Great Britain and European nation, but to go out there and push it one step further and to win all 3 would be absolutely unbelievable. So I think that's the next target.
Several servicemen from that initial Invictus Games have all gone on to win Paralympic medals. There's yourself, Dave Henson, Mickey Yule.
Yeah.
Was that
Jacko?
Yeah. Was that the springboard, do you think? That initial Invictus Games, was it the springboard? Did it give you the confidence to put you on that sporting path to success?
Yeah, I remember the one of the evenings at the London Invictus Games and chatting with Mickey and with Dave and saying, look, these guys were destined to go on to compete at Paralympic Games, and seeing them again in Rio competing and seeing how they get on kind of only spurred me on even more to try and do it. And I don't quite like to use them as a magnet towards where I'm going, but they definitely had a pull towards me and said, look, if these guys do it, then surely why can't we do it for rugby? So.
And when you were out in Tokyo, you were obviously aware that the likes of Jacko and Mickey were competing, and everyone asks about what village life was like because it's such an unknown, especially in COVID times when it was probably quieter than normal. But what was village life like? And I gather you didn't really get to go and see them compete or see other sports because of the restrictions. Yeah,
it was pretty tough. I'd gone from Rio, where there was massive crowds. You had the people walking around the athlete village and their stadiums and stuff and things like that. And to go to Tokyo, where in the athlete village you were in amongst each other, and I wanted to go to the ceremonies, the opening and closing ceremonies, but I knew that we were competing the day after the opening ceremony, so we weren't really supposed to go to the opening ceremony. And because of the pandemic, as soon as your competition had finished, message from the Japanese government was that within 48 hours you had to be out of the country, so we didn't have the opportunity to even go to the closing ceremony. So my first ever real aspect of competing at a Games was the space of 1 week. You're there in Japan, you're in the athlete village, you're on the bus, seeing the sights as much as you can, you're competing, you're back on the bus, you're back in the village, and it wasn't great, but at the end of the day, I'll always go back to the fact that the main focus for us was to go there and win the medal, and that's what we did, and I'll gladly take that any day over an experience of competing in front of it.
Sounds like a very military operation. Get in, lads, win the medal, get out. You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
Yeah.
Is that how you felt? Did you switch? Did you switch into your military mindset? This is what we're doing.
Yeah, I think we had. I think a lot of the squad had friends and family with tickets booked to come and watch us compete, and obviously for me and some other guys, it was our first game, so it would have been great for friends and family to watch us compete. But when we were given the news that they couldn't come, it wasn't. Obviously, it was disheartening. But at the end of the day, the main focus for everyone was to go and win the gold medal, and we did what we had to do. We got there. We competed as best we could. We got on the bus. We got to the venue. We played our hearts out for, I'd say 32 minutes, but it was definitely longer than that. And we just literally did what we had to do. We came back the next day, we recovered, we watched the analysis for the next game, we ate, we got ourselves ready for it, we competed again, and it was literally day after day we did that, and all focus was towards the final medal match against the US, where we had to do it once more, and we did that and come away with the gold medal. So. And
the fact the next one is in Paris, just over the water, is that giving you and your family that little bit more ammunition you need to pursue?
I think it was a little bit of a softening of the blow to say that we couldn't come to Tokyo, but literally the next one you can jump on the ferry and you can be in Paris and hope.
Most romantic city.
I might be a little bit on the bus trying to compete, back on the bus, back in the village, and that'd be me. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
And from a sort of still in wheelchair rugby, but a really amazing bit of news in your sort of personal development, in that you've linked up with a side, well, you were headhunted by a side in the States. And I'm sure this is something that's gone under the radar because, you know, this is like a transfer almost. You know, it's exciting stuff that club wheelchair rugby exists for someone of your level, where you can decide, I'm going to go and play for tell us a little about the club in the States.
Yeah, so I'm still going to play for my club team in the UK. I'm trying to not soften the blow for them. But as well as that, I was fortunate enough to receive a few messages while I was in Tokyo with the chances to play, and I think the opportunity for us as athletes to maximise the most as much as we can out of our playing careers, and if that means you've got to go to the States, you've got to go to, I can probably think of other places, but I was just fortunate I got offered the States, and to go there and to compete and to improve my own game as well as them as a team. So it just kind of felt that the combination fit, and the opportunity to go over there and to play against other teams that I've not played against and perhaps I've not had the same opportunities to play as just made sense. And like I said, hopefully it can improve me as a player, and if that means that I can then come back from there and apply anything that I've learned while they're back in my game, back in the UK and back for Great Britain, then hopefully it can only be a good thing. How
will that season work? Where is it that you're going to in the States, and you know, how will you manage to make it work back here as well?
Probably a lot of flying. It's going to mean a lot of probably tiredness, but yeah, the team are playing for, they're in California, which is fortunate. But yeah, they've just finished their season in the States, and we haven't potentially started our UK season yet. So we're going to start that in January, which is kind of just when the US season starts as well. But I don't know how it's worked out, but none of the fixtures have kind of clashed just yet. So, and instead of it being like a normal football game where two different teams meet up every weekend of the season, what happens in rugby, club rugby anyway, is that you meet up, say, once every few weeks, and you play the whole of the league over the space of one weekend. So it's a pretty tiring weekend, but it definitely makes it a lot easier rather than travelling left, right and centre. So yeah, I look forward to it.
Now, you've been super busy since winning that gold medal. I mean, I'm not saying you weren't busy before, but you also are a man who's never forgotten his military roots, and it's relevant we're here today with the RAF Benevolent Fund, and you know, your links with the military and with those who have helped you on your journey, you've never forgotten. And you know, I know that, for example, on your social media, you always thank these guys for being part of that journey and for helping you win a gold medal as well.
Yeah, I think when we go back to not just me being injured and the help that I received from the RAF Benevolent Fund, but that's helped me get my life and my family's life back on track and back to as best as normal as we can call it. But when we received the call that GB Rugby were not going to get the funding, these guys at the Benevolent Fund were literally straight on the phone to me to say that they could help me out, and try and enable me to go forward. So as much as in a home life where you're trying to get your life back on track, they've also helped me get my sporting career on track and helped me push it to where I want to go. And obviously I'll always be eternally grateful for them. And when they asked me to be an ambassador, it was a no-brainer really to try and help give something back to them after everything they've done for me.
Yeah, well, somebody else that's also followed that path is John Allen Butterworth. He's reinvented himself as an athlete. He's gone from cycling to the slopes, hoping to do some snowboarding. I mean, heaven forbid you were ever had to retire from wheelchair rugby, but is there another sport that you've sort of got on the back burner that you dabble with?
Powerlifting.
No, let's not try that, let's not go there. But yeah, I think whilst I was at Headley Court doing my rehab, they try and push a lot of sport into you to try and keep you fit and active and healthy again and things like that. And I've tried a lot of different sports. I tried, I'm not ashamed to say, but I've tried wheelchair basketball. However, I thought it was amongst the same rules as rugby. So when somebody had the ball, I thought I could smash them on the floor. Yeah, turns out you're not allowed to do that.
Slightly more gently, yeah.
I ended up in the sin bin, and I remember the referee saying to me, look, if you want to do that, go and play rugby, and obviously here we are today. But I've tried a few others like the running blades and a bit of athletics, but because of my residual limb length, my longer residual limb wants to go forward, my shorter one wants to go sideways. So if we ever have a 100 metres diagonal race, I'll be there and I'll win it. But yeah, aside from that, I've not really looked at many other sports. Obviously, I've probably looked towards a time, but for now, my focus is on rugby. And when my body decides to give up on me and not allow me to compete at the highest level, I'll see where the future goes from there.
You know, RAF gunner, I was thinking shooting, is that something, or are those days long gone?
Yeah, I think they're going around. And plus, my time in the military was predominantly with machine guns, and I don't think there's
You're not allowed that?
a sport to
that's the same as murder ball in basketball, isn't it? The equivalent, yeah.
You can't just do the smallest grouping you can get apart from blue at the target.
GPMG.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to campaign for a diagonal 100 metres.
Well, that would work,
That would
wouldn't
be
it?
amazing.
That would be
Just straight across the javelin field.
With your chair, are you able to feed back to the manufacturers, the designers, the engineers, to influence your chair, your wheelchair rugby chair, so that you can tweak it here and there? How does that work?
So obviously every athlete is different, and everyone's chair is all bespoke as well. So for people like myself who for an amputee, but I still have a knee. So predominantly when a lot of my force, when I'm hitting somebody in the chair, I need to transfer that from my arm, from my body, through my legs. So I've got literally a metal knee plate which comes across me, which allows me to then generate the power without me coming forward and falling out of my chair. So you can go back and you can literally, within I think reason, come up with any kind of design that you'd like for your chair. And I'm just pretty fortunate that I've had some good guidance with my chairs and where to go forward. And the one that I've got works perfect for me. Obviously, there's still improvements to be made, I think, not just for my chair, but for around the world. And the way that they're constantly trying to improve that is now they're bringing out even lighter chairs made of titanium now. These chairs, my chair weighs about 20 kilos, but these titanium chairs that they're bringing out are like 9 kilos, which you think is going to make you even lighter to be able to push faster, stuff like that. But where a lot of the lower point classification players are all well and good in these titanium defensive chairs, for a guy like myself trying to put as much force again through my body and through that knee plate, through 9 kilos, we're not quite sure of the outcome, whether or not the chair, let alone my body, would be able to withstand those hits. So there's still a bit of work to go, we'll see.
Well, look, there's so much more to look forward to, and I'm personally very glad that you'll still be involved with wheelchair rugby until your body starts to fall apart. But Stu, it's been brilliant. We're now going to get the gold medal out, I'm sure, and look at it. We haven't touched a Paralympic gold medal, have we? So yeah, let's do it on camera.
Oh, why not?
Look, it's in a handy little.
It actually comes in a bigger actual display box. It comes in. But obviously the amount of times you've got to travel around, you can't take it in there.
I'm just glad you brought it without me even asking.
Yeah, I mean, where do you keep it at home, or does it?
I get asked that question quite a lot, but it's just on top of the normal box, hidden in the trophy cabinet, ready for coming out wherever people need it. But
look at that. That's cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah, well, that's what everyone says, is they're surprised. So it almost feels, well, it is real, but it feels more real because it's heavy. Yeah. You know,
holding that, having it round your neck, is that the realisation of many years of rehab, of dreaming? Does it sort of, I don't want to say bring a full stop because your sporting career is still going on, but does it help you sort of take on board everything that's happened?
Yeah, I think when the final buzzer went in Tokyo, that was a realisation. Well, maybe a little bit earlier than that, because when I knocked the American guy down, I knew that we were going to win. But I knew then that mathematically, when the buzzer had gone, we were definitely won. And for me, being quite an unemotional person, that was an emotional time. The fact that we'd gone from 4 or 5 years of training very, very hard for this one moment, and here we are now to come away with a gold medal. And I think not only from a squad's perspective, because of we were an unfunded sport, we were unfancy, we were always kind of known as the nailing men that were never going to win a medal, and for the first European and Great Britain to win a medal was unbelievable. But from a personal level, from waking up in hospital, realising that I'd gone from Afghanistan at one point to now being in a hospital bed with a newfound disability, and how am I going to go forward, this is my goal and where I come from. And very emotional and kind of a lot to take in, but I kind of enjoyed the moment and wanted to celebrate it very much, and this is obviously a testament to it all. So yeah.
It's a story that you've told many times before, but I'm very grateful that you've taken the time to share it with us and those who tuned in to have a cheeky listen. So thank you very much indeed.